Golf course gunfire, the weird Miss Walls, and Kamala's awful interview in Pennsylvania. This is the Propaganda Report. I am Brad Binkley. Good morning on the East Coast. Good evening for you party animals on the West Coast. It's a lot to talk about this morning. I think you guys know what the top story is today. Obviously, it was the NFL. And no, wait a minute. Was it another assassination attempt? That's the story anyway. That's what everybody's been talking about the past 24 hours. I'm sure you have seen it. Another alleged assassination attempt on former President Trump. That's what the FBI is investigating this as. Trump is fine. I'll give you the details first, at least the details they've given us, and then I'll tell you what I think is significant about this story that is not being talked about that I've heard. Starting with the details. The alleged attempt happened at Trump's Mar-a-Lago golf course in Florida yesterday afternoon, I think around 1 p.m. Trump was golfing, I believe, with a donor. Can't remember who it was. They were on the fifth hole, I believe. And the way it works, apparently, we're learning, all the secrets of the Secret Service are no longer secret because of the reporting on the story, which is interesting in and of itself. But when Trump is golfing, some Secret Service agents, obviously there's some staying with him, go up to the next hole to scope the landscape and make sure there's nothing there. I'm wondering if they check for an exploding golf ball, which I think you can buy at Spencer's, along with exploding cigarettes. Not ones as effective as the ones the CIA tried to give Castro, but party favors. I don't know if they check those. Nevertheless, they go a hole up, and when one of these Secret Service agents was scoping the landscape on the sixth hole, they saw the muzzle of what we're told is an AK-style weapon sticking out of the shrubbery that lines the course at Mar-a-Lago, some 400 yards away. I think they probably have some binoculars that they scan the terrain with along with the naked eye. The agent then fired his or her weapon. I don't know if it's a guy or girl or a they, or gender fluid agent. I have no idea. Which caused the would-be assassin to flee, leaving behind his weapon, a scope, a GoPro camera. Was he a skateboarder? And some bags, which I believe had some protective armor in them. I was listening to Anderson Cooper just inject a lot of, those protective armors. It sounded like he was going to set up a barrier. Just nobody was suggesting it. And Anderson Cooper is just adding these things into the story about how this guy was going to conduct all of this. Nevertheless, the suspect's name, he's 58-year-old Ryan Routh, I think. Yeah, Routh or Ruth. He ran to a nearby car, which was apparently his daughter's car. He hopped in, and he made a break for it, but apparently, and unfortunately for him, someone saw him trying to make his escape, and they took a picture of the license plate of the car, which they then relayed that photo to the police, which enabled the police to pick the dude up in the next town over. I'm going to put a picture of this guy on screen, one of the many pictures that are going around before I continue. There he is. It's a picture of him, one of them. So the cops then stopped the dude, or at least the cops that stopped the dude in the next town over. They said that Routh was calm and he showed no signs of emotion when they pulled him over, despite all the chaos. So he was accepting of what happened, and he did not ask why he was being pulled over. Was I speeding? He didn't say anything. Was it my blinker? What's the problem, officer? Is it a taillight again? Oh, it's the AK that I left in the shrubbery over at Mar-a-Lago. Oh, I'm sorry. I was duck hunting. Was the president golfing today? No, I just ran because I got a call from my daughter. She's pregnant and her water broke. And I just forgot all of my weaponry. No, he said nothing. So I've seen a lot of takes about this story. Some people say Trump is 2-0 versus assassination attempts. Some people, including some of those same people, are calling this suspect, this guy that you see on the screen here, with the half blue and half gray hair, looking like the saddest person on the planet. And this looks like a very, very broken person, honestly, in his eyes. They're saying he's a CIA asset. What's up, J-Dub? Others are saying that they don't believe the story at all. Sorcery shit, November can't come fast enough. Well, I don't know if it's going to all end in November, J-Dub. I think it might just begin. I don't know where this chaos is heading. A lot of people don't believe this story is true, just like they don't believe the previous story is true. I don't know what happened today. I have no idea or no way of really knowing because I don't believe what the news tells me. But I do know this. I know that regardless of what you believe about this story or the previous story, meaning that you could think that this story is fake and the other story is fake, which I know many people do, and people do focus on a lot of those details, and there's a place for that. But for the broader context, even if you believe that everything is fake, what is absolutely true is that the idea of political assassination attempts is being normalized in America. Where's the gay dude? Oh, you're talking about where's the guy I talked to the other day? Reginald the actor. He's probably, I don't know what Reginald does at 3 a.m. He probably dresses like this guy and goes clubbing. Political assassination attempts is being normalized. The thought of it is no longer shocking or crazy, and you can see that in the response to this story versus the response to the first story. Yes, the first story had a more visceral image, video for people to react to that this one does not have, but the way that this one has been reported and discussed online has almost been in a, I'm not surprised, nonchalant way that it doesn't feel like it even kind of shook the news story. Like, I think they'll talk about it tomorrow, but it's not going to dominate the headlines. It'll be mixed in with a bunch of other stuff. There's not this momentary, both sides are going to agree to talk about how political violence has no place. They might say something briefly. It's just another story in the Rolodex of stories. It is kind of like it is in other countries where political assassination attempts are normal. It's not quite there because 2 is not a pattern, but 3 is a pattern. And I expect that before the election, there will be a third assassination attempt on a political figure. I don't know who. Could be Trump, could be Kamala, could be Joe, could be RFK. I doubt it will be Vance. I doubt it will be Walz, unless Vance tries to take Walz out with couch cushions. Ha, 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 ha. They love making the couch effing jokes. Or if Walz tries to take out Vance with horse semen. Ha, 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 ha. There will probably, I hope I'm wrong, to establish that pattern of political violence normalization, be a third attempt. And again, I truly hope that I'm wrong in this, but that appears to be where the narrative is going. Let me make my screen a little bit bigger here so I can see these comments. I'm trying a new setup, so it's a little bit harder to see some of these comments. Poe Deegan says, well, 20 years of drone bombing and people, it get numb. You're right. It gets numb to the violence. And I think that with mass media, you can make people numb to violence quicker. And we have school shootings. I mean, all of this stuff's terrible. All the violence is terrible. And I'm trying not to get engaged in a is it real, is it not conversation, which I know in the conspiracy community that is a conversation that happens. And I think everything should be questioned. I'm just talking about the perception of it and the impact on the public that it has. And I don't like the impact that it has because most people are going to be operating on the belief, those people that aren't conspiracy theorists, that 2 assassination attempts have happened in the past 2 months. That's not something we want to be normal here. This is something that we see in, well, at least we're told about in other countries. Of course, propaganda we hear about other countries, the more we learn about propaganda that we receive, it's a whole nother rabbit hole we can go down. But look at this guy in the photo, though. I mean, this guy in this photo looks like somebody that you feel sorry for. I mean, this guy looks like somebody who has, I don't like to say that person looks like they have mental health problems, because I don't want to advance a narrative. I don't know anything about this, but this looks like a sad person, does it not? Poe Deegan says, look at the history of our involvement in political assassinations in other countries. Bound to happen here. Definitely could. We're so, what do they say? We're not privileged, but we're sheltered. We're so sheltered to the kind of things that our own government does in other countries that some of it kind of is coming here. And that feeling of safety is eroding a little bit, which is why prepping has rightly become a smart thing for many people to do, to not rely on government, which they don't want you to do that. They call you racist if you learn how to grow your own food, which is an odd thing to call people, but that's what they do. All right, so that's just an image of this dude. Let's get him off screen here for a second. I don't know. Like, I'm sure he posted that on his social media. He's got this vest on. He probably got that at the Army Navy store. He's got the American flag shirt, the thing wrapped around his neck. I mean, this is not. What if this is your dad? You know, if this is your dad posting this, you call him up. You say, "Dad, are you okay? What are you doing?" Of course, his son acted dumbfounded to it. What did his son say? His son said something like, I think I have it here. Yeah, his son said that his dad hates Trump like all reasonable people. That's what he said. My dad hates Trump like all reasonable people, but he never owned a gun and he wouldn't do anything batshit crazy. Well, if he actually went to Ukraine or if he posed for that very picture that we just looked at, both batshit crazy things, son. Do you have no idea what your father is doing? If we accept that he went over to Ukraine, and there is evidence that he did. Or is your definition of batshit crazy just a little bit different than everybody else's? Because those already seem batshit crazy. And I'll talk about the CIA asset thing in a second, because I don't believe that theory either. The dude apparently went to Ukraine to join the fight over there. That's another one of those things that you can see from his social media, which he also supported Biden and Harris recently. Some say that he supported Trump in 2020. I haven't seen that. I saw the one where he supported Biden. Maybe they're both true. But he showed himself on his social media post to be without a doubt the biggest supporter of Ukraine in the Russia-Ukraine war that has ever existed. The guy's so pro-Ukraine that Volodymyr Zelensky looks pro-Russia. He's like, it's too much, man. It's too much. I don't need that much support. Just another billion. The guy has done solidarity harder than anybody else on the planet for Ukraine. He went over there and tried to fight with one of the battalions, and from what I understand, was not allowed to fight with one of them. But that didn't matter because he was helping in other ways, allegedly. He was trying to recruit Afghan soldiers who fled the Taliban to come join the fight in Ukraine. Because that's what you want to do when you finally flee the Taliban, is you as a brown person want to go over to Ukraine and fight alongside the Azov battalion. That makes a whole lot of sense. Here's a video of this dude. Yeah, they really don't hide the ridiculousness of this stuff anymore. But I think this guy I think he's a patsy. I mean, he might have done something, but I think this guy's just an easy patsy. I'll tell you why in a second, after I show you some of this video. I don't think he's an asset. I don't think they protect assets. They're not protecting this guy. All right, here's the dude allegedly in Ukraine. We have no proof that he's in Ukraine in this video, other than the guy behind the camera is asking him about Ukraine. And it looks like a terrorist video. It's like Bill Nye the Science Guy did methamphetamines for 2 weeks and then did a terrorist video, is what this looks like. I mean, doesn't he look like a cracked out Bill Nye?
Blows my mind.
Hold on, let me show you. You guys can hear that.
And what are you doing here in Ukraine?
My initial goal was to come and fight. I think, everybody around the globe should be motivated to come here and support the Ukrainians and support the army, no matter what gender, age, anything. Everybody should be here supporting the Army, but I'm 56, so initially they were like, well, I have no military experience, so they're like, you're not an ideal candidate. So they said, not right this minute. So plan B was to come here to Kyiv and promote getting more people here. You know, we need thousands and thousands and thousands of people here fighting with the Ukrainians. We need, you know, we've got 190 countries around the world, and we need thousands from all of them. If the governments will not send their official military, then we civilians have to pick up the torch and make this thing happen. And we've gotten some wonderful people here, but it's a small fraction of the number that should be here. If we have 5,000, you know, to 10,000 people here fighting, you know, that is just a minuscule amount of the 5 billion people on the globe. You know, we need everyone here fighting. That's why
Everyone.
I'm in Kyiv. So every project that I promote is about getting people here to support the Ukrainians.
This guy is an activist, lifelong. He's a lifelong person who's seeking to be viewed as a hero. And I'll show you some of the images and stuff and stories about him from the past that aligns with this type of personality, where for whatever reason he believes that his next cause is this Ukraine thing, that this is going to make him to be some sort of heroic figure. Everybody needs to be over there. He says at the beginning of this, because it's 10 minutes long, I'm not going to play the whole thing, but he says that there are some gray fights across the planet. There's gray area. Not so black and white, but this one is black and white. Russia, evil. Ukraine, good. There were, you probably recall, mainstream media propaganda recruiting efforts, because I pointed them out at the time. I said, Jake Tapper is doing a recruiting effort for civilian soldiers, for people to get up who've never fought before because they're brainwashed and say, I'm going to go fight for Ukraine, like this guy, and go over there. This guy could realistically be a product of that mainstream media propaganda. Aided by some of the intel agencies, possibly. They find people who they can manipulate, and then they fuel them along, which I feel like this guy is one of those. But there was a mainstream media propaganda campaign when this war started to do exactly what they are telling us that he did. And there are photos that suggest that he is over there, even though he looks like he's in this dirty, dirty hotel room in this terrorist video. I'm going to let him continue for a little bit longer.
We're at a critical juncture in this war where we are sitting on the fence as far as whether good or evil is going to win. You know, right now we're looking at a situation where the world is waning, and it's thinking that this is important or not. And we're at a point where, you know, all right, are we going to stand?
And he's at a point where, before I go over to Ukraine, I'm going to dye my hair as a 58-year-old man to look like like Bill Nye the Science Guy screwed the Joker, and this is the offspring.
Stand for humanity, for human rights, for everything that is good with the world, or are we just going to ignore it? You know,
I feel sorry for him.
If everybody is complacent and doesn't join this fight, then guess who's going to win?
It's a sense of self, an overinflated sense of self-importance, which plays into this as well. And he's very gullible.
It might take 10 years, but we're going to lose this battle if everyone around the globe does not stop what they're doing and get off the couch and come to Ukraine and defend the human rights of everyone around the globe. This is the most important thing going on in the world today.
I mean, this is either somebody who is a propaganda agent, which I think he's brainwashed. Maybe he's a propaganda agent. I know friends who have delivered similar talking points about Ukraine. They didn't go over there. They didn't take action. I think this guy has a background which aligns with him doing something crazy like this.
So sitting around and letting life go on as normal and complaining about gas prices and complaining about, you know, your luxury life in whatever country you live in is unacceptable. As human beings, we must support each other. We cannot turn our backs on anyone around the world and expect the problem to go away. So I've been dealing with Russia for my entire life, you know.
I thought that was an interesting statement there.
It was okay, but now we've let it slip.
So he's been dealing with Russia his entire life. I don't believe that's some sort of comment from an intel asset. I believe that's a comment from somebody who He's almost 60 years old. When he was a kid, it was the Red Scare. It was hide under your desk. I believe he's somebody who grew up privileged, has had too much money, and has built his life on creating this identity where he is some sort of hero. He started a business where he tries to like build these small, tiny houses for homeless people. Some of the causes, there's nothing, I mean, that's perfectly fine if you want to do that. But I think that's the idea that's being, the mentality in this guy that's being manipulated. So what's interesting in the way the media has been reporting this is I've heard this phrase used probably 5 or 6 times now. They have said, yeah, so you're basically liberal. He is progressive liberal for sure, Poe Deegan. The media has said that, speaking about the Mar-a-Lago story, that this guy made a mistake, but he is not unsophisticated. Made a mistake, but he's not unsophisticated. And then they would go on to talk about how truly dangerous this attempt was. Stuff they never said about the previous story. Made it seem like this guy was a little bit of a mastermind in the way they talked about it. They didn't act surprised, but they said this guy truly kind of knew what he was doing. Wow, how sophisticated. It was a little bit weird, as the Democrats would say, the way they were pumping up the sophistication of this guy in the media last night, and how coordinated and uniform the talking points were about it. So I expect to hear more of that, and I expect the details that come out about the story to support this idea that this person that we just watched, this very broken, gullible, easily manipulatable, overinflated sense of self-importance person is sophisticated. And we should therefore be scared about what other possible sophisticated attacks might be on the horizon. Didn't they say the other guy, whether it's true or not, had these explosives that he had tried to set up to remote detonate? Maybe they failed, according to the story, but that seems more sophisticated than this guy hiding in the bushes of Mar-a-Lago, doesn't it? It's not just the media pundits talking about this guy. Yeah, he does look sophisticated as F. Right. It's not just the media pundits talking about that, though. So the people who I would say are, they oppose the media. They don't like the media. Many online are saying that he's a CIA asset, that guy. And maybe it's a definitional thing about a CIA asset, but a CIA asset is somebody who is going to have some skills. It's somebody who the CIA is, in most cases, going to attempt to protect and conceal their identity. This person, in my opinion, is neither sophisticated nor is he a CIA asset. To me, this guy, because that CIA asset claim, it kind of supports the idea that this guy is somehow sophisticated. I don't think he's sophisticated at all. And maybe I'm wrong. I don't think he comes off as an asset. I think he comes off as a gullible patsy who could easily be manipulated into doing anything that you want him to do, just as long as this guy believes that doing so would make him appear to be and feel heroic. I think that is one of the primary motivators in his life, is to feel heroic. And there is some evidence supporting that. I've talked about the businesses that he starts that are very virtue signaling businesses, so building tiny homes for homeless people that probably don't want them, that probably want to live on the street if you ask them. And then here's some more images of the guy. And these images come from, no, I'm not always on at 2 a.m. These images come from some bitch I know on Twitter she does a great job archiving. And this is an image of this dude from a newspaper article from August 27th, 1991. Why is it not getting bigger? Hold on a second. Make that a little bit bigger for me anyway. Well, I'm having a hard time seeing it myself. So basically the article headline is about crime fighting pays. And it says police organization honors super citizen. And I can't read the thing, the type's too small on my screen. But the article is about him chasing down somebody who might have been a rapist. And then there's a big, let's celebrate this guy for it. That's great. Stop a rape. That's great. I don't know all the details of it, but great. But it was a big expose. Hero. And they even called him a superhero in the article. You could call him a superhero. I don't know if this is from the police or just from the person who wrote it. I don't know if he initiated the contact with the journalist to get them to write it. There's a lot. You can get journalists to write stuff if you want, and you can spin stories. Maybe he did save somebody. I have no idea. But the point is, this is something that he was proud of, that was shared. Hero chases down a potential would-be rapist. Now, look, there's another image here, which you kind of saw part of this image in that other one, but the dude posted a lot of images of himself doing this. These virtue signaling images. Here he is with camo pants on. The guy is not a trained military person. He's got the weird American shirt on, and he's standing in front of all of these flags around the world, and it says, "All nations, we need your military equipment and personnel, please." So he's in some sort of weird ad. I believe that word is Ukrainian at the bottom. I might be wrong. DOBRONOSOV. I think that's a Ukrainian word. I think this is some sort of ad, a recruitment ad for civilians to come over there and get themselves killed, basically. The guy wants to be viewed as a hero. And it's like sad. It's like, I don't know everybody has these hero. We all imagine, no, we're going to stop, especially dudes, we're going to stop the crime and beat the shit out of the guy, and we're going to do all these moves that, maybe some people have trained for, but many of us were like, we'll just know them. Maybe we were brainwashed one night, and they taught us all these like secret spy military moves, and we're all secretly Jack Bauer. It's just a matter of us getting triggered, and we'll save the day. This guy was like, I need to go to Ukraine and fight for you. I need to solidarity harder than anybody else. I don't know if he's divorced, but I'm guessing he's divorced. And there's another story here. Another story that also, this was archived by some bitch I know, which is interesting here. It says, man with gun barricades self inside business. This is from January 24th of 2015. And this article says, an armed man was arrested Monday morning after barricading himself in a business during a 3-hour standoff, police said. Ryan Routh, wait a minute, that can't be him. Is that unless the age is wrong? Because he's 58. And that says Ryan Routh is 36. So unless the age here is wrong. But then I did see another image of him standing outside of United Roofing. So maybe they got the age wrong here. And there was a police report of him being charged with the same thing. So I'm going to assume, and I'll verify later, that they got his age wrong here. Or maybe the date of the article is wrong. But he was apparently arrested. And I will double check all this. He was pulled over, and during a traffic stop, he put his hand on a firearm and then drove to United Roofing, which there are images of this guy in front of United Roofing. I don't know if he worked there. And then he went inside and barricaded himself. And he was charged with carrying a concealed weapon and possession of a weapon of mass destruction, referring to a fully automatic machine gun, and charged with resisting arrest, delaying and obstructing a law enforcement in the future. Solidarity so hard with Ukraine makes his dick fall off. Sophisticated man, but yeah, it should be sophisticated man barricaded himself. Yeah. All right. So I just think that this is one of those guys who is kind of like those guys in the indictment of the Whitmer kidnapping in Michigan, where it's like the dumbest person, or for whatever reason, the most manipulatable person who the feds can surround themselves by. They get around them and they just manipulate them into committing a crime that they otherwise might not have committed. I think that this was a person who maybe the intel agents were aware of him for a while and knew they could patsy him to do anything they wanted at any given time. And I think he's not an asset. He's a patsy. And I kind of feel sorry for him. Fortunately, nobody got hurt. The guy is just retarded. In not a literal way. You know what I mean. But here is a little bit of the CNN coverage that I thought was interesting. A useful idiot. Yes, Stoner. He's a useful idiot that takes action. He's one of those activists who's like, I need to activist harder than everybody else. Instead of just marching up and down the street shouting, we're not going back. I'm going to Ukraine and I'm trying to suck off Vladimir Zelensky. I don't need you to suck me off. I don't need you. You can suck me off a little. But no, you like Ukraine too much. It's just, he's too hard with the solidarity. Here's some of CNN's coverage of it, and we'll go to the next topic.
The pictures that you're seeing come from a GoFundMe account. And
there's a picture of this guy in the middle of two people who have, one guy has a camo jacket on. The other guy has, I guess, I don't know if this is real military gear or they're cosplaying. I don't know.
And on that account, Routh claims that he went to Kyiv in 2022. He was raising money to try to support his travel that appears to be completely done on his own. On that GoFundMe website site, he is encouraging others to join him. It is unofficial. He claims that he is staying with people aligned with the military.
What are these things over their left shoulder? At first, I thought that those were just the antibacterial stuff that you push, but it looks like a string is coming out of them. I'm wondering if maybe those are the machines over the left shoulder of the guy on the left by the door and the fire extinguisher. I'm wondering if those are the machines that Tim Walz got put into all the middle schoolers' bathrooms in Minnesota.
He's donating military devices to some of the fighters in Ukraine. And our team is also that he's donating military devices to some of the fighters in Ukraine. And our team is also gathering a little more.
So that's what he said on the GoFundMe. Some people might interpret that as, well, CIA, FBI giving him weapons, whoever, to give to military in Ukraine. He did have that machine gun that he got. Not machine gun, but automatic weapon that he was arrested with in 2015, allegedly. But this could also just be a dude who is appealing to people like him, as dumb as him, to raise money by saying that. He could be lying. Most GoFundMes are a scam. I would say some are. It sucks for the ones that are legit. But the GoFundMe scam is one of the biggest scams going today.
Of a background about where he comes from in the United States. We believe, according to public records searches, that he was splitting time between Hawaii and North Carolina. That in Hawaii, he was a self-employed affordable housing builder. He started in 2018 a company called Camp Box Honolulu, building some of those storage units and tiny houses, and that he had donated a structure to some homeless people.
I'm sure they love that. Hey, homeless people, you guys live on the streets, you doing these drugs everywhere. Want to cram your asses into this tiny house? The guy thought he was being a hero. Where's the money come from? That's a question people ask. I bet this guy has a trust fund. I bet this guy has been rich his entire life.
North Carolina, though, we are getting through some of the federal campaign finance records, a donation of $100, more than $100 to Act Blue, which processes donations to Democratic campaigns. He had registered as an unaffiliated voter, that is without a party affiliation in 2012, but he had voted in the March 2024 Democratic primary. And it also shows, according to North Carolina public records, that he had a number of brushes with the law. In 2002, he had a weapon. He had been pulled over by police, and that he...
Oh, 2002. So the date on that article I had was wrong, but this is the same story. Why is he wearing a blue whistle also? And there's some weird images in the background of this room they're in. I will let this Asian leprechaun get back to her story.
Barricaded himself in a building. That is something that police did recently confirm after his arrest on Sunday, and that he had a number of public record, according to public records, Anderson, that he had issues with the courts and failing to pay taxes. Anderson.
Kamala,
Failing to
thanks
pay
very much.
taxes.
More now.
An issue with the court. There's Anderson
On the break.
Cooper. Anderson Cooper. Anderson Cooper's facial expression has never changed. You could put 13 dicks in him. Facial expression wouldn't change. Stoner says, talking about the gear that this guy wears, called it Temu Tactical. It does look like that. It looks like this stuff that you would buy off of Amazon or Temu. Let me get a tactical pen and vest and then go over to Ukraine and see if I could Jack Bauer this shit. That's what it looks like. There will be more news coming out about this guy, obviously, and I expect it to feed into the sophisticated idea of it. I'm not buying it. I hope I'm wrong about there being another attempt on somebody before the election. It just feels like they're normalizing that. Moving on to the next story. Well, I should say this, actually. I do think Trump could do something. He's already made some true social posts that are funny in response, but I think it would be really funny, although I don't think he'll do it. I think it'd be really funny if Trump tomorrow issued a statement where he said that if he were elected, that he's going to pardon poor Ryan Ralph. I think he should make that promise. I promise if elected, Ryan Ralph gets pardoned. I'm not the victim here. Ryan is. He's the victim of mainstream media propaganda and brainwashing. And if elected, I will free Ryan. Think about it. He makes that statement. Guess who's going to be voting for Trump in November? Ryan Ralph? Ryan Ralph would go from would-be assassin to jumping on the MAGA train in under a week. It'd be unbelievable. His whole family would be supporting Trump. Look, even people who tried to kill me are now my biggest campaign supporters. I think it'd be a brilliant move. 5D chess, that's right. That's right. That'd be the ultimate 5D chess move right there. Can you imagine the media trying to report on that? Former President Trump just promised to... I'll even promise Hunter. I'll pardon Hunter. I've always thought pardoning Hunter would be something that it'd be smart for Trump to promise to do. Because if he does that, then if you're of the belief that they're never going to let Trump take office, they'll either kill him or just not let it happen, then what you get is Joe Biden on your side, because Kamala can't really say she's going to pardon Hunter. Although Joe, he said he wouldn't do it. Maybe he'll do it. Get Joe Biden on your side. I mean, he already put on the MAGA hat. It's all weird, man. It's all so weird. Can't even use that word. Snowden's still in Russia, yeah. I heard somebody on CNN talk about Snowden in a positive light very briefly the other day, and then they stifled themselves because somebody in their ear said, shut up. Even though they used to love Snowden, but now they all talk trash about Snowden. I know some people think he's a CIA asset. I don't know. I don't know what he is. Next story, Tim Walz will be coming to Atlanta or Georgia next week. His wife apparently came last week. Nobody knew where she was, but I'm sure there was so much enthusiasm. And the only reason that I point this story out is because I want to point out the pattern that I've been pointing out for a very long time now, that you can always find where a Trump or a J.D. Vance event is going to be. You can find the time, you can find the location, you can go there and attend the event. You can get a press pass for the event if you want. Or you can go outside and protest the event because they tell you publicly where they are. And there's always a lot of people supporting. I've gone to a number of these events to cover them. You cannot, however, find when specifically. You can find very generally where anybody who is a surrogate for Kamala is going to be. They won't tell you the time. They'll tell you the day, maybe, or they'll say they'll be there this week, between this day and that day. The details are not revealed. And once again, we have Tim Walz, who's going to be coming to Georgia apparently this upcoming Tuesday. And as you see here in the AJC reporting it, which the AJC always gets one of those invites that nobody else gets. It says a campaign official said the Minnesota governor will visit Macon and Atlanta on Tuesday, which is a few hours away, for a political event. It's a second trip to Georgia this campaign cycle following the late August bus tour, which they also told nobody where and when they were going to be. That he's visited those several Georgia coastal stops. It wasn't several, it was 2 places. They visited 2 places. One of them was a high school where the students had to be there in the most Democrat, suburban, South Georgia town you could find. And the other one was Savannah, also a Democrat town, that they took 35 buses full of friendly journalists, local Democrat politicians, and HBCU students who were all in the bag. It's all controlled. But it's a groundswell. They tell you it's a groundswell. As you see here, for Walz's event this upcoming week, no further details are yet available. Not yet available. They're never going to be available. They're never going to be available, yet they tell us there's a groundswell of enthusiasm. It's all fake. It's all fake. I would love to put on that White Dudes for Harris shirt that I've been wearing when I went and trolled people at Dragon Con and I infiltrated this Stop Project 2025 Democrat thing this past weekend. I would love to put that on and go to a Tim Walz event. I would so love that. But I can't find any details of where it is because they don't want people like me going, or they don't want anybody who they don't control going. And here is evidence of that right here from Kamala's own campaign. This isn't your parents' election time. You're right, Stone. Not at all. I mean, it's wild. The campaigning styles from 1950. I'd love to see a comparison of the 1812 campaigns versus this. You didn't have any TikTok videos. There was no Brat Summer in 1812. There was no Lincoln Brat Summer in 1861 or whenever the hell he was campaigning. So here's Kamala. Watch this video, and then we'll talk about it. It's very short. It's Kamala tweeted it. She said, Gen Z is the best and ready to lead and shape a better tomorrow. America's future is bright.
Are you having fun on the bus tour? Your generation, I mean, I love you guys. You are so smart. You are not patient. You are just ready to lead. And I'm counting on you guys. I really am.
Oh my God, she's wearing Chucks. She's wearing Chucks just like a young person. Watch it again and watch that cut. So they show her walking up and then they cut. She can't even make it from where she gets off of a bus or wherever she is. It's like probably 20 feet. She can't even make it all the way over there without them having to cut and edit it together because she's so scripted.
Are you having fun on the bus tour? Your generation, I mean, I love you guys. You are so smart. You are not patient. You are just ready to lead. And I'm counting on you guys. I really am. So we're doing this together, right? That's right. That's right. Well, thank you. Oh, okay. Tell me. Yes. Okay. You're braceleting me? Yes. Oh, that's wonderful. Did you make this?
Actually, we got it from the North Carolina Democratic Party. We're all here together. We've been
Oh.
all
So you're like blinging out.
You ain't laying out. So it's very easy to distract from the point I wanted to make here by how awkward she is. You see the people behind her. You see the perimeter. You see the buses behind her, the white buses, and you see there's like a perimeter of white buses protecting her. Then there's the black SUVs protecting her. This is a circle of controlled people. Right? There's 3 layers of circle here. There's the white buses, there's the black SUVs, and then there's the cucks and Democrat Karens. Nobody real is getting inside this 3-layer perimeter. And then the first thing that she says, I'll play one more time.
Having fun fun on the bus tour?
Are you having fun on the bus tour? Because the only people who come to her rallies are chosen to be on the bus tour. Then there'll be stories about Kamala bust a bunch of people into her rally to make it look real, and then they'll say, that's no evidence of that. There's only evidence of that. All the evidence is of that. It's posted on her freaking X account. The AJC admitted it in their story. They just frame it positively, and they don't point out how, hey, look, everybody here was chosen and came in this bus, and none of you plebes are allowed to be here, but look at the groundswell of enthusiasm. It's just such a lie, man. And you notice I haven't said anything about Trump until now. I could show this to people who have never been to a Kamala event or never looked into any of this, never thought about any of this, who are just supporting her because of joy, enthusiasm. And they would immediately say, oh, you're just a MAGA Trump racist, something like that. And I'm like, I haven't even mentioned Trump. I'm just showing you that they're lying to you. And they're not even hiding that they're lying to you. It's all over. Are you having fun on the bus tour? I mean, shut the F up with your chucks. I bet her and Doug Emhoff share shoes. I bet they have the same shoe size. Doug Emhoff and Kamala Harris have the exact same tiny little feet. She's got little brown feet. He's got little gay white feet. And they just share shoes. I'd love to go to a Doug Emhoff rally, too. I mean, Doug Emhoff might as well, for every time he speaks, just bring out those things you go in the boxing gym and you hit the little fake person, it's like rubbery. You bring that out, you put a cut out of Kamala's face on it, and Doug brings it out, they wheel it out, and they put a big dick on it, and Doug just says, go Kamala! Then he gets down and he just sucks on her dick the whole time. That should be every time he speaks about, isn't she the greatest? It's just so gay and so unbelievable. But they have made this sensationalistic, ridiculous. It'd be the worst show on television if this were 15 years ago. People would be like, none of this show is believable. None of it. But now it's just like, yay, joy, enthusiasm. Ah! It's maddening. It's designed to be maddening. I know that. I do know that. All right, what else we got here? Okay, so Kamala, we already got that one. Let's stick with Kamala for a minute. Here's Kamala speaking to members of the Congressional Black Caucus, because I talk about Kamala in the Knights Templar story that nobody ever talks about when she was the Attorney General of California. I'm like the only person who's covered that story repeatedly, that weird story about her staffer pretending to be police officers and exercising jurisdiction over 33, going into police precincts and saying, we're here on Kamala has sanctioned us to be here to exercise jurisdiction over your police precinct and the police precincts of 33 other states and all of Mexico, and Kamala knows we're here and she approved. Nobody has talked about that, or the fact that one of the guys involved dropped dead before his court appearance, or that the other guy just disappeared, the guy who worked directly for her. Nobody talks about that, okay? Nobody talks about that and the fact that she held a party for the HBCU schools and for the Divine Nine, the Black Freemasons, they call themselves, before Fani Willis, who's a member of that, indicted Trump in Georgia. And Fani was at her party. Doug Emhoff, the only white guy there, probably just having a blast, getting blasted by, a line of black dudes, I'm guessing. It was probably his daydream. I mean, a fantasy he got to live out because of Kamala. Nobody talks about any of that. So I point out all the time, because the media has more openly talked about how it's the Divine Nine, the Black Freemasons, that are propping Kamala up and that are the reason she is where she is. I think that's why they have chosen her. A couple other reasons instead of Michelle Obama. And here is Kamala speaking to members of the Congressional Black Caucus this past Saturday, not to be confused with members of the Congressional White Caucus, which, as I just demonstrated, we know that Kamala, she marries the White Caucus. But for a good time, She likes to go to the Black Caucus. Here she is giving a shout out to the Divine Nine at the Congressional Black Caucus this past Saturday. And make of it what you will. I'm just illustrating that she's controlled by this group, I believe. And there's a lot of evidence to support that.
Hello to all my Divine Nine brothers and sisters. And my soror. And to all my HBCU brothers and sisters. But let me just talk.
Did she say, and all my soy boys? I don't think she said that, but I want to see. I couldn't quite tell what she said in between her cackling and the black act. Let's see if the subtitles can help us.
I have. Hello to all my Divine Nine brothers and sisters. And my soror.
What is she saying? It said my sore. And my sore is what the subtitle said. I don't know what she said there. She continued. That was interesting, and I want to thank Dead World Radio for alerting me to this clip, which is just more evidence that she's controlled by this group. Watch Black Star Radio, I think it's called, on YouTube. Man, they lay it. They were at the DNC, and they interview everybody, and they spell it out, and they make no qualms about it. What their agenda or goal is, I don't know. I don't know exactly. There's evidence to what it is. I'm just pointing out that there is very much a control apparatus that has propped Kamala up, and it appears to lead back to the Divine Nine, the Black Freemasons, Prince Hall Freemasonry, created by the Boule, connected to the Boule, created in the image of Skull and Bones from Yale. It's all one and the same, but created to control black people with people who look like them to serve the agenda of the original Skull and Bones. That's a base understanding of it that I have. I know it goes much deeper than that. And I am lining up guests that know more about this stuff than I do because it's a fascinating subject. But Kamala's their gal. And Kamala talks about the vision that the Black Congressional Caucus has. Here, a little bit later in this, let me get this clip lined up here, 321. All right, here she is talking about the vision.
So for more than half a century, everyone here knows the Congressional Black Caucus has served as the conscience of the Congress and of our nation. And as a proud former CBC member, I know firsthand.
So, I mean, is that true? Is that something she says that like everybody agrees on that? I guess everybody in that room agrees. In that room agrees that the Black Congressional Caucus has served as the conscience of the nation. I don't know that the nation agrees with that.
America relies on the lead of our nation as the conscience of
I'm going to start over. I'm not going to interrupt this time.
So for more than half a century, everyone here knows the Congressional Black Caucus has served as the conscience of the Congress and of our nation. And as a proud former CBC member, I know firsthand America relies on the leaders in this room, not only for a conscience, but for a vision.
America relies on the leaders in that room, full of her Black Freemason brothers and sisters, she was thinking, for a conscience and for a vision.
The CBC has always had a vision for the future of our nation, a future where we can see what is possible
unburdened by what has been.
Heard that before, haven't you? The line everybody makes fun of. To see what is possible, unburdened by what has been. This quote, which so many people make fun of, is one that she specifically uses while speaking to the Black Freemasons, the Congressional Black Caucus, which she says is the conscious and has a vision for America's future. Because that has meaning to this audience that those of us who make fun of her just saying this empty term. I mean, we probably do recognize it when you think about it. I remember the first time I heard it, I was like, I think I know what she's saying. But I found a Reddit discussion on this. And I know Reddit can be, full of it. But these were progressives who support Kamala, who say that the original quote is, because this person was mad that Democrats don't say the original quote. They say the quote that everybody makes fun of, which is bait probably, because the people who they're talking to know what they're saying while they're trying to bait the other side to focusing on that. It's probably intentional. But they say the original quote is, when young children see someone who looks like them running for office, they see themselves and what they can be unburdened by what has been. That's what they allege the original quote is. And an explanation as to the meaning of this, beyond what is obvious, is this person says that in the past, people who looked a certain way weren't able to achieve their dreams and be what they can be. But the vice president, now candidate, says that nowadays people can be what they dream to be without having to be burdened by racial or sexist prejudices of the past. That's kind of what I thought they were trying to say when I first heard it, but in a, what do they call it, dog whistling type way, by just saying the generic explanation or phrase without explaining it. What I would say is, are minorities burdened by what has been right now? Is it a problem in a lot of places where minorities can't get jobs, can't get accepted to schools? I don't know that it is. I don't know that the evidence behind the theory of this quote still exists in America. Maybe it was something that might have existed a long time ago, but I don't know that it still does. And when part of the population doesn't feel like it still exists because they might feel like they're on the opposite side of this, like they're the ones being screwed out of a job or not selected for something, then that is where the division that Kamala Harris says Trump causes really is created. That's where people start actually getting mad, and identity politics and race actually destroys the country. Equity. There's some people who've described it as they had their time, now it's our time, and I don't even want to get into all that, but you guys know what I'm talking about. I think identity politics is BS. This is identity politics. I don't like it when any side does it. All sides do it from time to time. But people are individuals. People are not a collective group of anything, and it's an insult to view someone or judge someone not as themselves and what's unique about them and their own history and what they've developed and what they've earned in their life and what they can do with what they've earned. It's an insult not to judge them by that, and instead to judge them based on something they can't control, that they were born with, whether it's their gender or whether it's their race. And America has been swept up in this idea that we should be judged by these immutable characteristics, by something that we had no choice over, instead of things that we can choose and we can earn and we can do, which has in effect caused many exceptional people who are more skilled than anybody to have their jobs and their positions viewed through a DEI lens, when the reality is they earned it, but because of this shit, it's people go, oh, wait a minute, maybe it's DEI. It's so messed up, and it's so disempowering. It's so disempowering. The only people that this shit empowers are the politicians who convince people that the only way you're going to get anywhere in life is if you rely on us and you rely on this identity politics approach that we take. Otherwise, you're worthless in and of yourself with your individual uniqueness. Screw you. It's so insulting. But they have disempowered half of the country into thinking that Democrat politicians are the only thing that can save them. Some Republican politicians do it too. It's just such a disempowering message. It ignores the individual. It's like Aristotle versus Socrates. Although Socrates is, you read Plato, it's brilliant. A lot of it is. You can be reading Plato and be like, oh my gosh, this is the most mind-expanding thing ever. Then the next paragraph, it's like, whoa, why is he having sex with a dude now that he's calling his protege? I could have skipped that chapter. Marxist, yes. No, it bums me out when I meet people that I know that buy into this because they're putting all of their hope in somebody like this who's manipulating them when I know them. And I'm sitting here going, this person has so many great qualities. They're so talented in so many ways, but they have been led to believe that they can't do anything for themselves and they must rely on it. And I'm like, my gosh, you have so much ability. But they will not let people recognize that in themselves because an empowered populace does not need these politicians. And that's the fact. Politicians only exist when we think we need them to solve problems that we can't. And so they have to make people feel disempowered. Unless their approach is, elect me and you won't need me anymore. If you elect me, I will make myself obsolete because you will all be empowered. It's an ideal. I do believe, now I sound like one of them. You can say what you will about Trump, and there's a lot of questions about him too, so I have myself. But the message from the Democrats is one of disempowerment. You must rely on us. Trump, for the most part, the people that I've talked to on the street, I've talked to a lot of them, they feel empowered and capable. And taking all of the other political stuff out of it, that feeling of being empowered and capable of doing things yourself is what the globalist New World Order, however people describe it these days, want to snuff out because it's a problem for them. It's why they call people who can grow their own corn 2 steps away from white nationalism and joining the Klan, which is what the CFR has done. I played the clip a number of times. That mentality is what they do not like. There might be a little bit more of this.
A future where we fulfill the promise of America, a promise of freedom, opportunity, and justice, not just for some, but for all. And today, that vision, our vision, is under profound threat.
Right.
While we move and fight to move our nation forward toward a brighter future, Donald Trump and his extremist allies intend to take our nation backward. They will give tax breaks to billionaires and big corporations, cut Social Security and Medicare, and end the Affordable Care Act, which the CBC fought so hard to pass. But we are not going back. We are not going back.
We are not going back. And that's it. You're at Neighbors, Frighten Me. I love Neighbors. Yeah, he changed locations. I would like to do another meetup at Neighbors, actually. Neighbors Feed and Seed. That was super fun. Like that place was cool. Speaking of we're not going back, I really do want to do another meetup at Neighbors at the new location. So speaking of not going back, you guys have probably seen this, a lot of you guys, but I'll show it anyway. So that was at the height of the lockdown. That was a great meetup. We did a couple of them there. They were fantastic. A lot of people showed up. We had people fly in from Dallas and drive in from across the state. No, it was awesome. It was like a really great meetup. Read the first one or the second one? Or both? So we're not going back was the inspiration for, I'm not going to play all of this, too self-indulging, but the inspiration for when I went to Dragon Con and I LARPed at Dragon Con as a white dude for Harris. And I had on a white dude for Harris shirt, and I had a bondage thing on my face, a ball gag at one point, because that's how I view white dudes for Harris. And I chanted, "We're not going back," which I think I do at the beginning here. Like your outfit.
Thanks, I like yours.
Thank you. Woo! We're not going back. We're not going back. So hot. How you doing? You guys can watch the rest of that on at Freedom Act Radio. But yeah, I walked around chanting, "We're not going back," because that is the message that they try. They're going to take us back to a time when Trump was just ripping people's pussies out, and they don't want to go back to that. So now I'm going to save Kamala's interview for tomorrow, but to close the show, I want to show you guys how weird Tim Walz' wife is. Look at this. I mean, look at her eyes here. Just look at her eyes. I mean, she looks like she just spotted the best dick she's ever seen, and she's about to bite that thing off, and then go donate it to Planned Parenthood so they could sew it on somebody who wants to have a sex change. I mean, she looks like she is on all of the amphetamines. And look at Walsh in the background. He's got that. This couple, man, look at her gripping that podium. I mean, she looks like she's screwing the podium. Now, wait till you hear her.
But I kind of liked it when she did this. Turn the page.
So for those listening, she's waving her hand in front, like her arm is a windshield wiper, demonstrating a turning of the page with her gesture.
You like that? Okay, so I need you to be with me and practice with me. What are we going to do? We're going to turn the page. Oh, pretty good. Do it again. We're going to turn the page. And we're going to turn the page. All right, so I'm going to be watching you because when I see Wisconsin,
yeah.
and I'm going to watch you nationally on TV because this is a pretty important place, and Minnesota helped you practice with this. You just show me this. Turn the page, right? Turn the page. And you know what else that looks like? Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Donald Trump.
What?
We are turning the page.
Why does she lean down like she's going to suck the mic every time?
52 days and we are turning the page. 52 days and it is bye-bye, Donald Trump.
Look at Tim Walz. Tim Walz is clapping. So Tim Walz is a guy at the Mexican restaurant after his wife had too many margaritas. He's like, "Okay, good, honey. Shut up. Honey, stop." Honey. He's trying to stop her right now. Adderall and Zoloft is a hell of a combo. That's right, TT. Look at Walz. He's even uncomfortable. Oh, dang it. Oh, that was the end of it. Watch again. I think Walz. It looks like Walz even grabs his D at one point. I'm going to turn that volume down a bit. But watch him at the end of this just get really uncomfortable. Hold on.
You did this. Turn the page.
Very, very witty. You're right.
Okay, so I need need you to be with me and practice with me. What are we gonna do? We're gonna turn the page.
Was he grabbing his dick
Oh,
down
pretty
there?
good. Do it again. We're gonna.
Oh, look at him mess with his wedding ring right there. It's kind of weird. I don't know if that's an unconscious thing or what that is.
Oh, pretty good. Do it again. We're gonna turn the page. And we're gonna turn the page. All right, so I'm gonna be watching you because when I see Wisconsin, and I'm watching nationally on TV because it's in pretty.
So look over Walls' right shoulder. You see a black guy that looks like he has swimming goggles on. Yeah, right over Walls' resting bitch face, right? I mean, you see this black guy who looks like, yeah, he does. He looks like he's about to try and join the Suicide Squad or go swim the 100-meter. Over that guy's left shoulder, that looks like Kamala Harris kind of sitting behind. Like Kamala Harris secretly infiltrated Walls' rally. Look at all these white people. They have one black guy back there. And they have one Indian person, and then they have what looks like Kamala Harris.
Very important place in Minnesota. Help you practice with this. You just show me this. Turn the page, right? Turn the page. And you know what else that looks like? Bye-bye.
So terrible.
Bye-bye, Donald Trump.
All right, now, so Walls right now is done. He's like, I think she didn't tell him what her thing was. I think she's like, I don't want to tell you what it is. I want you to hear it naturally. And so Walls is like, okay, you're done. You're done. So he wants her to stop. And I love that they have the coach signs. He has got to be the worst football coach in history. I don't care what they say. He talks about football like someone who's never picked up a football in their life. But watch how uncomfortable he gets. He wants to shovel his wife out of here.
We are turning the page. 52 days and we are turning the page.
He's like, okay, shut up. He's like, shut up, bitch.
Bye-bye, Donald
He's like,
Trump.
look at him. Look at him. He wants her to shut the hell up. He beat the shit out of her after that. He beat the hell out of her after that. Or he tried to, anyway. He probably could. She probably beat the hell out of him. She probably caught his fist because she's on so much Adderall. There are a number of people that seem to have Down syndrome in the background. That's the exploitation of people with disabilities by the politicians exploit people with disabilities. I've never seen so much exploitation of people with disabilities than at the DNC. It was like every other thing they rolled out somebody with a disability. Some of them who couldn't talk for themselves, who they just said, so-and-so said this. I'm like, no, they didn't. You said that, and then the camera just pointed at the person in the wheelchair. At the rally that I went to that we infiltrated, and I'm torn on, I'm not going to show it, but I will tell you what happened. We were leaving, and a lady said, oh, come over here and talk to, like, I'm just making up a name. Talk to Jared. Jared knows what it's like under Trump's policies. And we're just walking over there, and we go around a corner, like, okay, who's Jared? And the lady points at somebody sitting in a wheelchair. And it was a guy who was probably in his mid to late 20s, had bright red hair, a Georgia Bulldog visor, and a Georgia Bulldog shirt, and was sitting behind the Stop Project 2025 banner. I looked at this guy, and I thought she was telling me to go talk to this guy. And I walked over to him, and I thought that he was just wheelchair bound, but that he would be able to speak to me. I, in earnest, went over there, and I said, okay, because she kept saying, talk to him, talk to him. I wouldn't have gone over there. She just kept saying, talk to him. And so I went over, and this was his mom. I didn't know this until after. And I said, okay, tell us what you think. And he just looked at me, and then she walks over, and she goes, tell him that to stop project. It's like she mouthed it out, and he like watched her, and he said it. I felt terrible for the kid. I don't know that he wasn't comprehending or processing what he was being asked to do, but it felt that way. My mom was in a wheelchair, and my mom had a condition where people oftentimes assumed, because of the way that it looked, that she wasn't comprehending things, but she was very much comprehending things. But there's a difference, I think. You can see the cognition. This is why I'm torn on this, is because it certainly looked like this lady had dressed her son up and was telling people that he is opposing Trump and he hates Trump and here's why. It certainly seemed to me like he didn't know what she was talking about, which is why it raised eyebrows to me when she was promoting how excited she was that he can vote. I was a bit taken aback by that. I hope I'm wrong and that he does, that it just looks like he's not processing stuff. But he didn't know. When I asked him a question, there was no response. It was her coming over and telling him word by word what to say. And the exploitation to me, I was a little disgusted by what appeared to be exploitation. I hope I'm wrong about that because I don't like to judge people that have handicap situations because I know there's always, there can be more to it than meets the eye. But I don't know, dude. I watched the video back a lot. And I'm just like, dude, why are you bringing your kid out there? Why are you making your kid be a Georgia Bulldog fan? Dressing him up in the Georgia Bulldog. Maybe he loves Georgia Bulldogs. Put him in some tech gear. Give the techies a fan. Come on. Yeah. I think it might be some of that brainwashing, man. It's crazy. I know you like Georgia. Most people like Georgia. Georgia's better. Georgia had a close game yesterday. I mean, were you worried, Stoner? 13-12, wasn't it? I never thought that Georgia was going to lose. Like, even though it was close, I never really thought Georgia was going to lose. Yeah. Yeah, it is some virtue signaling, man. I don't know. I don't think this lady thought she was doing something wrong. I think that she had probably been brainwashed, kind of like that guy. I believe that guy that we were talking about earlier, the suspect in the Trump thing, into believing that what she was doing was the right thing to do to stop a monster. To stop this monster, because she had a whole rationalization. It is wild the way they manipulate social psychology and stuff like that. And I mean, the experiment going on right now is a grand experiment. There's no doubt about that they will write books about in 100 years. Any given Saturday, Stoner, you know what? So you've seen the movie Any Given Sunday. Have you seen the Al Pacino, the speech that he does, which is a great speech where he's like, what was it? 1 inch. You're 1 inch. You know, it's just you get goosebumps watching it. I bet most people who are Democrats don't realize that Tim Walz has been ripping off Al Pacino's speech from Any Given Sunday. He's been using lines from Al Pacino's speech in Any Given Sunday to talk about football. It's like somebody handed a dude who never played football in his life a script and he started saying, you got 1 inch, blah, blah, blah. And none of the Democrats have any idea. It's funny. It's a great movie. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for the great comments. Tech's pretty good this year, Denver. They're a little better. That game against Syracuse they got lucky to get as close as they did, but they are definitely better. So we'll see how they do next week. Bob Seger cries over her use of turn the page. Yeah, Bob Seger's family. Is Bob Seger alive? I don't know. Probably. Whatever. He should sue them for using that term, turn the page. That's what I thought, too. All right, y'all. We'll talk to you guys next time. Y'all have a fantastic rest of your day. There it is.